Welcome to Collecting Chaos. My name is James, and I'm live. I was a little bored, and I was going to work on this comic, and I thought this might be a good time to try a setup that I've been toying with, but haven't really tried yet. And I'm going to work on a comic book live right here, right now. We'll work on cleaning it up a little bit. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start getting into it. Let me switch to this camera I've got set up and see what happens. Now, as you can see, it's right here on my desk, right here on my screen. So I don't have a lot of room to work with, but that's okay. The idea is so that you can see what I'm doing. I will be bringing my light over occasionally so I can look through it, because that's a magnifying light that I use a lot. So let me turn on this other light so we get a little more. There we go. Now, this is a Blondie comic, number 221 from 1976. Patrick Murphy sent it to me, and he actually sent it to me for free. He gave it to me. And it's got, it's got a bad spot here, but that's okay. I like Blondie. I like comics, so what's to lose? And as you can see, there's some soiling, and there's a big stain here. There's a ring here. Looks like somebody was putting like a water glass or something on it. And I don't know that I can get those out, but there's also some soiling on it. And so what I'm going to do is give you a basic on how I clean comics and how I start. And the first thing, of course, I do is I take a cotton round, and I'm just going to get a whole bunch of them out because I use a lot of them. So I'm going to get about this many, and that should be enough to get started anyway. And I'm just going to go over it lightly. And all I'm trying to do is get surface dirt or surface dust off of the comic. I'm not trying to clean it yet, just trying to get some dirt off that might be on the surface. I'm not trying any kind of deep cleaning methods or anything like that. And we'll take a look at what I get off the front cover. And yeah, I got some dirt off of it, which is kind of cool. So we'll set that off to the side and maybe look at it again later. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my little eraser out. This is a pen eraser. And I'm going to start down here, which I'll turn this around so you can see it. I'm going to start down here in this white area. And I'm just going to go over it. Real easy. I'm not trying to get, I don't care if it's immaculate. It doesn't have to be perfect. That may come later, may not. We're just seeing what we can do about getting some dirt off. And remember that dirty cotton round? Well, why didn't I throw it away? Because I'm going to use it to clean off the eraser fines. And that's fine as in F-I-N-E, not F-I-N-D. And we just clean it up a little bit. Make it look decent, maybe. Let me go to the comments to see if anybody's here, which probably not, and I don't expect anybody to be. This was a pop-up. I wasn't expecting to do this. I needed a comic to do on my show, or actually I need this one I'm going to press tomorrow. So I'm prepping it for a press. That's what I'm doing. And I do, 2 or 3 comics a day. I don't try to get them perfect. But as you can see, I'm going over all the white areas. And I do with the smaller areas first, and then I go to the larger areas. Hit this little area right here. And then this one. And then we'll go down here. I don't know if you can tell, but for the most part, I'm going in the same direction. And I rub it, I lift, I rub it, I lift, I rub it, I lift. But you couldn't really tell that from the way I was doing it. And I'm getting a little dirt off, not much. I'm getting a little bit off. Let's do along this spine here. I'm not going, I'm putting a very small amount of pressure on it, not too much. Just enough to take off any lightly embedded dirt. I will be cleaning this pretty thoroughly in a way that some people won't understand or won't think is a good idea. Get under the Blondie label. Or the logo. A little bit of round on the inside of the lettering. That looks like, yeah, that's all right. Might be able to get it off with this. If not, I'll use a surfactant on it and maybe that'll take it off a little bit later. But this is generally all you have to do to clean a comic, really. Just hit the white areas. It'll make it look a lot nicer. I will take this a little further than what I expect. One thing I want you to remember, and this goes without saying, well, I forget to say it, and I should really make a slide for all my videos where I clean something. If you are afraid of damaging a comic book, don't try to clean it. Don't try to press it. Don't do anything to it. If you are afraid of hurting a comic, don't try to do anything with it like this. If you're not afraid, go for it. Because you never know when you're going to get something that turns out good. We go up around the corner here. And as you can see, I'm doing this area again because it's got a lot of dirt on it that I want to get off. The spine usually has the worst amount of dirt. That's not too bad, all things considered. Let me take an old this is an old magazine backing board that I have. That way I can hit the edges a little bit better. And it's a good idea to have a backing board in there whenever you do that. I just got overly ambitious and wanted to get started. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to take a piece of paper, just a regular old sheet of paper, if I can find one. There's a blank sheet. Lay the comic down on that. We'll put the backing board inside the comic. Lay the comic on the piece of paper. And now I'll use this same one, but I'll use the other side and I'll go over the back of it. Applying a little bit of pressure, not a lot, just a little tiny bit to pick up any loose dirt. And there's quite a bit. I could probably go over it again and get more. But we're going to go ahead and start with the erasing. I'm going to start right up here by this tear and work my way down the edge. Just like this. It doesn't take a long time. Once you get used to doing it, and once you've done it as often as I have, it doesn't take a real long time to get it done. But if you're just starting out and you've never cleaned a comic before, take your time, go slow. There's a reason why the turtle says slow and steady wins the race. Now, you notice I was going this way, but when I got near the edge, I reversed it to go the other direction. That's because I want the eraser to go off the page and not cram up against the page. Now, if you don't have one of these, that's okay. You don't have to have one of those. You can use one like this. And this works fine too. Just, you want the nylon eraser though, and preferably white nylon. And when it gets dirty, you want to clean it off. Same thing with this. If it gets dirty, you want to clean it off. Now, what I use to clean it off with is, well, that was one way. I broke it. That's one way to clean it off. This is a soot sponge, and as you can see, it's worn down here. And that's where I've cleaned my eraser with it. These can be washed. I have washed them and reused them before. It's not a big deal. Here we go again, back to the erasing. Now I'm going off the page this way because there's a tear right here. See? See if I can't clean up some of it here. Now, a lot of this is stained, so I know I'm not going to be able to get it off with the eraser. And you see me speed up a little bit, but that's because I have a lot of experience doing this. You do this for a certain number of years, you can do it pretty quick. But if you don't have that experience, slow, take your time. It's not going to hurt anything to take your time. And you want very light pressure. You don't want enough pressure that it's going to take any gloss off. Now this has gotten wet before, so it doesn't have a lot of gloss, but I'm going to show you a trick for that towards the end of the video, or towards the end of my session here. Now I know you see I'm leaving a lot of eraser fines behind. Not worried about taking them off yet. I can take this. Now this is a fairly white area. So I'll just take this and go over it like that. I did two things there. I cleaned off the eraser fines, and also I cleaned the paper slightly. This you can use to clean with, but it doesn't work quite as good as an eraser. I use both. I use a lot of different things when I clean, especially something like this. Now, see what happened there was I wasn't paying attention, and it lifted up the page and it tore it slightly. So you got to be careful. All right, let's clean that off. And you can use a little bit of pressure with this. Now you notice that I stopped there. That's because there's a tear right here. And I didn't want to catch that tear. So got the back about the way I need it to be right now. We'll go back to the front. And I'll use the dirt or soot sponge on this. And that's what this is. It's a soot sponge. A lot of people call it an absorbing sponge. Absorbing just happens to be the name. It's a soot sponge. And why do you want to pay extra for a name if you can get a generic soot sponge that does the same thing and works just as well? And as you can see, we took off a little bit of ink, but I'm not too worried about that. Most of what we took off was dirt. Now the part that's going to make you scary or make you scared. A lot of people don't like doing this. I happen to think it's an essential part of cleaning. And what I'm going to do is take my cotton round, used a little bit of Immaculate on it. Sometimes I just use a couple of drops of water and 2 ounces or a couple of drops of soap, dish soap in 2 ounces of water. And I'm going to go over the front of the comic. And this is where we try to get some of those stains out, those rings. As you can see, it's getting damp. It looks like mud. It does take off. It did take off a little bit of the ink. That's Charlton. Charlton comics are notorious for that. I mean, they were the cheapest made comics there were. Now we get to let it dry, and I'll talk to you for a few minutes while we do that. Of course, I don't see anybody on the stream right now, and that's fine. People can watch it later on. I don't have a problem with that. But I need to let it dry off a little bit. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to take a look. And the stain up here, the ring up here is a little bit less. This one is still pretty hefty. I'm going to go over that again. I'm going to go over real light. Go down the side. Again, we took off some green. I'm not worried about it. I'm not sending this comic in to get graded. I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to keep it. So I'm not too worried about any damage I happen to do to it. Got to let it dry out a little bit. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just feeling it. It's starting to get dry enough that I can go to the next step. And the next step is just 2 or 3 drops of distilled water on a cotton round, and I'm just going to wipe it. Just trying to take the surfactant back out of the paper. Now, a lot of times when you do this, it'll leave streaks, and that's fine. We're not worried about streaks. I'm going to show you how to get rid of those. That's really taking a lot of the green off. I'm not happy with that, but that's okay. Once again, got to let it dry some. But I'm going to speed up the drying a little bit. Now, this is a Chemtech Chem Wipe. I use them. You can use a tissue paper, and just make sure it isn't perfumed, and do the same thing. And all I'm going to do is take off any excess liquid that's on here. And when I'm doing this, I'm also polishing it. I'm taking off those streaks that I mentioned. And I don't know if you can tell or not. I mean, I certainly can. But it's giving a little bit of gloss to the comic. So, in a way, you can say I'm polishing the comic. Actually, I'm burnishing it. And I see the ring here still. The one up here is real faint. It's still there, but it's real faint. There's a little like square right here. Yeah, right there. So I like that. I like the way it looks. It took off a little bit of the ink while I was doing the now let's do the back. I'm going to do the same procedure. Start with Immaculate. Start in the corner. And this one I'm probably going to do a couple of, wow, this is really bad. It's catching the paper. The paper here is dried out really bad. I can't do my circles because of the way it's dried out. But yeah, it took off. Looks like mud to me. Toss that in my trash. I'm going to do it a second time. This time I'm just going to do the edges. It's mostly the whiter areas is what I'm worried about here. See if I can't get some of that stain to fade. Now I'll be putting this in the press in the morning, or no, tomorrow afternoon. I already have a comic for the morning. Where's that one? No, that one's for tonight. So I'll be putting this in the press in the morning, and I'll show it to you on Wednesday as to how it comes out. Got to let that dry some. It is starting to curl a little bit. There's a couple of reasons why I'm doing that. Number one is it does clean the paper. Number two is it's adding a little bit of moisture to the paper. Now I add more moisture when I steam it. And the reason I use steam is because it's a lot quicker than a humidity chamber, and I personally think it works better. Now, if I was going to do the whole comic, I might use a humidity chamber. It's drying pretty quick, so it's because it's real dry in here. It's not humid in here like it normally is. So use the water. I'm sure some people think that, well, once it's damp, you should put it in the press right away. No, you don't need to do that. Don't need to do that. I have something in the press all the time. I do 3 to 4 comics a day. My goal is 3 a day. Sometimes I do 4. Once in a while, I only get 2. That's usually when I have individual pages that I'm working on, which I'm doing right now. I started to clean a Lois Lane comic that I offered up for sale on Friday, only to discover really, really bad mildew smell on it. So I am washing it. I've done the cover and the first wrap already, and I'm going to do each individual wrap and then reassemble the comic. There will be a little bit of work I need to do to it as far as, and it was one that I needed to do a spine correction on anyway. So that's fortunately I won't have to because I've already done it. Now we're just burnishing it out, making it look a little bit shiny. And you can do this if your comic looks a little dull. Clean it up a little bit. I'm not suggesting you put water on it, but clean it up a little bit. Take a tissue and burnish it, and you'll get some of that shine back. Because this looked really dull, and now it's starting to get a little bit of a gloss to it. Sometimes I'll do this after I press a comic and then press it a second time. Look at this front again a little bit. That's with the tissue. Now we're going to take just a plain cotton round and go over it again, just to try to get some of that gloss back, get some of that burnish to it. Because we like shiny comics, you know. Shiny comics are good comics. As you can see, it's definitely getting a shine back to it. There you go, Blondie. A little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer. Nowhere near perfect, but I know it's clean, and it has a shine to it. And I've managed to fade those rings that were on it. I can still see them, but they're not as bad. So I'm kind of happy with it. And we'll go back to me. There we go. Like I said, Blondie. I'm happy with it. I'm going to stick it in a bag and board temporarily until I get around to pressing it, because that's just a good thing to do. It doesn't take long to clean a comic. Once you learn, once you get practiced at it, it's something that can be done fairly quickly. But you should always take your time and do it right. Do it right the first time. You do it right the first time, you never have to worry about doing it a second time. As you can see, there's the backing board. Put it in. Makes it look a whole lot better. And that was just a quick clean. I mean, sometimes I'll spend hours on these. But this one I wasn't too worried about. I just wanted to get some of the surface dirt on. And so that's what I did. So I guess that's going to be it, since nobody came on to watch. 32 minutes to clean a comic. I don't think that's too bad. So when you watch this, have yourself a great week, and I'll see you Wednesday night on my Wednesday night coffee. Who knows? Maybe I'll clean another comic then. Probably not. Take care, everybody. See you on Wednesday night, and in the meantime, have yourself a great day, or a great week. Bye.